This is a bit of a weird one for me. I have very ambitious videos I want to make, but I'm kinda sick right now, so I figured I'd get a light one out of the way first. I'm more of a Marvel Comics fan than DC, but I do think DC makes better cartoons. This one though, from Marvel, has a bit of Saturday morning nostalgia for me. I know most other people around the world watch it after school or in different days depending on how your programming block was structured, but we'd get it on Saturday. I say it's a weird one because I had very fond memories of the episodes I caught back in 2010, thereabouts, but a friend who usually has very similar tastes to me hated it with a passion that left me wondering what the public consensus was on it. One thing that I don't think is in dispute is that the theme song rocked. While it isn't anywhere near as iconic as the X-Men animated series intro, it has the same kinetic energy. It's mad vibrant and shows all the characters doing their superhero things around Superhero City, which sets the tone for the show. There's no false advertising here. There's also a running Hulk gag that's reminiscent of The Simpsons opening theme that you should look out for in the intro. But before we dive in further, I should acknowledge that I know Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is the gold standard for Marvel ensemble shows. I'll eventually get to that video in the future, don't worry. So the Superhero Squad was based on Hasbro's collectible, chibi-inspired Marvel toy line. There was also a really successful game that launched in 2011 that must have been based on the show that was based on the toys, but I couldn't find definitive proof. This is pretty much deductive reasoning. The game must have been in development when the show was airing because it launched in 2011 during the final season of the show. I never played the game, but from everything I could find online, it was targeted at kids, and when it was at the peak of popularity with like 4 million players, the publisher took it down for reasons. I couldn't find why. Apparently the cartoon took inspiration from the Mini Marvels parody comics, which I used to see as backups in mainline comics. They were usually funny satirical strips that poked fun at different Marvel characters. A female friend of mine described them as cutesy, and I think that's accurate. So what's this show exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked, internet friends. I personally saw it as the kind of show that is used to expose new audiences to the larger Marvel universe. Think of Justice League Action,
The heat is on!
or Batman the Brave and the Bold, for example. It had most of the prominent Marvel heroes and villains, which was the biggest appeal to me, but there were some glaring omissions in Spider-Man and Daredevil. I had to watch it again because I kept feeling like I saw Daredevil in this, but I could not see him. Although they were in the video game, the Spider-Man TV rights were tied up with Sony, so unfortunately he couldn't feature in the show. I couldn't find anything on Daredevil, but I imagine it was the same because his rights were held by Fox at the time. I feel like Spider-Man's place was taken by this kid called Reptile, who has the power to summon various dinosaur abilities when required. Not a character or a power set I cared for at all. He reminded me of Spike in X-Men Evolution. Characters who have no shot at mainstream appeal, and you wonder why the show even cares about them as much as it does. Okay, I'm sure they have their fans, but I can't imagine there are that many. Spider-Man and Daredevil notwithstanding, I don't think any other Marvel show or movie has had this many characters from the universe. Watching this recently, I have to say I remember it looking a lot better than it does now. It was a mix of brightly colored and thickly outlined 2D characters in a mostly dull 3D environment. Since the show was a parody, the characters were extremely reductive. Captain America was an oblivious, honorable, disciplined soldier boy scout. Iron Man was arrogant and spoilt.
I know a place, a romantic table, you, me, no beavers.
Punisher was insane.
I'm out here to keep those stinking sprouts off the mac and cheese. Keep them from leaving the store in the first place.
Captain Marvel was a Karen, for lack of a better term.
Hold on, Miss M. The squad doesn't work for you. You're not my boss, just my landlady.
Oh, really? Well...
Silver Surfer was a surfer dude.
This place, it is dank, dark, draining my energy.
Blah blah blah, you get the drift. They were not very complicated, and probably only a couple of characters went through compelling personal arcs over the 2 seasons. But given the size of the cast and what I think the goal of the show was, I don't think that was such a bad thing. They operated out of the SHIELD helicarrier, and I can't say this with too much authority, but the overarching narrative felt similar to where the MCU ultimately went.
You know I'm the hottest, you ain't never...
No, not that.
Good.
No, the good MCU. Oh yeah. The show showcases most of the heroes at their peak, which is really awesome when trying to introduce newbies to the Marvel Universe. They're all at the peak of their superhero reputations, which is how I remember the comics growing up. None of this old man Logan, jaded Batman, deconstruction nonsense. The world is miserable enough, man. Let my fictional superheroes live their best lives. As far as the plot goes, Dr. Doom as the main antagonist was on a quest for the Infinity Sword that has limitless reality-bending power.
With that Infinity Sword, I will rule the universe!
It was the typical world domination plot, but without the complexity of Thanos' plan to wipe out half the universe for the supposed good of the galaxy. When the show starts, the Infinity Sword was fractured into a bunch of fractals that they spent the majority of Season 1 trying to gather. The superhero squad was tasked with defending Superhero City from Doom's machinations and later, the universe against Thanos in Season 2. As basic as all this was, I think it was a great introduction to the universe for kids because beyond all the colorful characters and juvenile humor, it actually had genuine stakes. It also had Stan Lee playing the hapless mayor of the city.
I now declare this impenetrable defensive wall open!
Which is a nice touch in retrospect. Like I said before, the really glaring omissions from this universe were Spidey and Daredevil, but otherwise, this is a great Marvel time capsule. Even in this parody universe where Dr. Doom was afraid of his nagging mother with a metal face, cause I guess those just run in the family, the threats were relatively real and Dr. Doom felt evil. If you've read the comics before, you'll know a bunch of his lackeys in the show. I'll list off a few. Abomination, MODOK, Mole Man, Sabretooth, the Wrecking Crew, the Juggernaut, Ulysses Claw, Toad, and a whole bunch of others. Even Dormammu and Ronan the Accuser were in this show. On the hero side, we had Cap, Iron Man, Black Panther, Thor, Hulk, Falcon, Hawkeye, the Heroes for Hire, the Fantastic Four, Wolverine, Storm and most of the X-Men, Doctor Strange, Black Nick Fury, and so many others. As you can tell from the list of characters I just mentioned, this is the main reason I would give anyone to watch this show. You get a lot of fan service from the wider Marvel Universe in a way that feels mostly organic. When people watched the MCU and asked where the other heroes were during certain crises, this show essentially satisfies that desire for collaboration. This for me is the power of animation. There are no limits to how many characters you can have in the show. You're only limited by those pesky rights issues that came from selling character rights in the past, but most of those have now been resolved by Disney, which is a bit of a monkey's paw situation unfortunately. For people who are very resistant to change like I am, a show like this today will be full of new characters that I honestly don't care to see. I think we've abundantly established that I'm very old school.
Hey you! Get off of my property! Now!
If you don't like cheesy humor, then I don't imagine you'll particularly enjoy it.
Once I have all the Infinity Stones, I will control the universe! Even New Jersey!
You will never take New Jersey!
But even for you, I'd say it's watchable in two ways. Either an episode a week / every other day, or as background noise during family gatherings. The kids will enjoy it, and you can smile at the random cameos from some of your favorite Marvel characters when they appear. I was always jazzed when a new character from the Marvel Universe popped up. It felt like reading comics in the 90s before social media and spoilers and YouTube idiots like me telling you how to feel about your entertainment. Now the plot is a lot with 22-minute episodes across 26 episodes a season, and I haven't the energy to get into all of it. But as I hinted before, it's the monster of the week plot structure, where Doom would be up to something and the superhero squad would have to stop him, with each episode moving closer and closer to the Infinity Sword and the Infinity Gauntlet in Season 2. At the end of Season 1, there was a status quo shift that involved Galactus' arrival and a switch from Dr. Doom to Thanos as the main villain in Season 2. With Thanos came more expansive stories across the Marvel galaxy, so they weren't confined to Superhero City like most of Season 1. I don't know why, and this is totally a personal thing, but I got so accustomed to Doom that when Season 2 came around, it felt to me like Thanos was trying a bit too hard to be popular with the audience. He didn't quite match the Skeletor-ish charisma of Doom. Season 2 went a bit harder than Season 1 with some major plot twists and also touched on some popular Marvel comics stories like Planet Hulk. But overall, I felt like it had more stakes and more emotion than the first season, which was mostly setup. Silver Surfer went on an interesting journey that took me from liking him to hating him to really empathizing with him by the end. If there was a main character in this show, I'd say it must have been him. It gets super comic booky with the cosmic Marvel stuff, which makes me a little hesitant to recommend it to everyone, but I do recommend dipping your toe into it and seeing how the temperature hits you. If you can hang for the entirety of Season 1, then you'll enjoy Season 2. It's definitely not for everyone though. So this is not a super passionate one for me like my previous videos, and I couldn't go super deep into it as a result. But if you have single-digit kids in the house and want to introduce them to Marvel, I'd say this is a big recommendation. But for those who have seen it, I'm so curious what you think about it. Let me know in the comments whether you liked it and which character was your favorite through the 2 seasons. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.